Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video in Shark Universe. After the long wait, MEG 2 The Trench finally has arrived to the cinemas, the sequel of the gigantic shark. In this movie, there is not one, but three MEGs, a kraken and another prehistoric creatures. But, is this just a simple entertaining movie, or is this cinema? Well, make yourself comfortable, because today I bring you the explanation of MEG 2, The Trench. But before we start, if you like sharks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for the effort of these videos, and give a like if you enjoy them. You could also turn the bell on to not miss any cool shark content. And now yes, let's begin with this video. This movie starts 65 million years ago, where we can see a prehistoric dragonfly getting eaten by a lizard. Suddenly some dinosaurs appear and begin to fight for the lizard. Everything seems to be calm, but one of them noticed that they were not alone. Suddenly, out of the jungle appears an enormous T-Rex. Giant dinosaur runs towards them pretty angry. They all try to escape swimming in the sea as fast as they can. But the T-Rex trapped one of them in his mouth. But out of nowhere, a huge megalodon rises from the sea and catches the T-Rex with his enormous jaws. It is now the present and the movie presents to us again Jonas Taylor, who is preparing himself for his next mission. He pulls out adhesive explosive and starts to stick it to a wall, which obviously explodes. It results that he was in an old container, and he had come there to investigate about a company that contaminated the seas. He pulls out his camera and starts to take photos. The captain told the crew members to throw petroleum, chemicals and other things that they didn't want to have in the sea. Jonas enters a tiny office searching more things that proved that this company was illegal. But then a parrot that was in a cage started to talk and warned that there was someone in the boat. The parrot's yells arrive to the ears of a crew member that enters the rooms. Jonas takes a flash photo in front of his face and quickly escapes. He knows that they have discovered him, so he runs and pushes everyone that he sees. He starts to run making an incredible parkour, and he finally arrives at the very top of the ship. The captain and some crew mates follow him and start to talk. Jonas sees that it was a dead end, so to make time, he told them that they were all arrested for polluting the sea. Jonas suddenly drops himself in the water, and when he swims up to breathe, the captain laughs and shouts to him that he's got nothing to do because the nearest port was in thousands of kilometers. But Jonas had everything prepared. Just in that moment Mac and a new character named KRAKEN were in a plane to rescue him. The only way to save him was opening the plane's hatch, so Jonas could get in and this way escape. When they arrive at the nearest airport, Jonas thanks them for saving him and shows them the memory with all the photos he had taken. At the same time, in a Chinese laboratory, Zhoming Zhang and Hilary Driscoll were trying a super soldier suit that gives superhuman force and resistance. They were preparing these suits because they were perfect for their expedition to the trench. They were talking, but then Mei Jing, that now has 14 years, asks her uncle Yumi to be very careful and also to not forget the meeting that they had that night. We later see that Zhoming had organized a big party, which Jonas and Mac had attended. They were there as guests. Jonas tells Mac that he sees a woman that doesn't give him a lot of confidence. This is important for the story later. Mac says to Jonas to not be so paranoiacal, and that he needed to trust more in the people. Jonas responds that the only one that he can trust is him, and Mei Jing. In that moment Hilary appears and begins to talk to the public. She presents herself, and she explains that very soon they will do something new and incredible. She asks Zhoming to continue with the presentation. He starts to explain that when his father was still alive, he used to call him umming, a Japanese word that means ocean. So in the following years, he investigated the sea, and all sort of sea creatures that lived there. But then, her father and her sister sadly passed away. But this wasn't unlucky, it was a motivation for him to continue. When he finished, Zhoming shows them that he had a new pet, which was a female megalodon. Her name is Haichi. They found her a few years ago, and since then, they kept her in captivity. Now their mission is to travel to the sea's deepest places, and with their technology they could discover new living beings and new places. When he finishes, the public applauds and congratulates him. Max suddenly says to everyone that in this meeting there was the man that fought against many megalodons and survived. So everyone suddenly runs to Jonas and begin to take selfies and photos with him. The next day, Mei Jing asks Jonas to go to the trench. He tells her that going there is very dangerous and that she is just a girl. She maybe is intelligent, but she is not prepared to go to a place like that. But then KRAKEN tells Jonas that Zhoming was going to Haichi's pond. Mei says to him that he was crazy and that it was a bad idea. Jonas thinks the same, saying to him that there are better ways to die. But even then, Jiuming believed in the megalodon Haichi. So he calls her with an aquatic pulse. Haichi slowly swims towards him without hurting. But she now returns, but without so many peaceful intentions, and she attacks Jiuming. When nobody saw him, they thought that he had been swallowed, but he appears in the room, saying that it was a unique experience. Meijing scolds him, and when they are alone Jonas tells him that that was dumb, and if things wouldn't have gone well, Meijing would feel bad. And for the next time, he needs to think things through, much better. Jiuming doesn't care because his job will always be risky. After some hours, Meijing goes to see Jiuming, and they talk over her grandpa and her mom. Jiuming tells her that her family, besides all, they were never united. When he was old, he decided to go away, and his grandpa said to him that he was like the dragon of the four seas. A beast that is not happy, and to be it, he travels around the world, searching a place that complements him. The next day the whole group gathers at an oil plant that they use as base. At night, we see Haichi swimming quietly. But she was actually searching a way to escape from that place. So then, she swims very fast and crashes into a grid, and so, she escapes. Back with Jonas, when they had the teams prepared, the group decides to go with 2 submarines. In the first one, there was Jonas, KRAKEN, and a scientist. In the other one, Jiuming, and 2 scientists. One of them is called Lanes, and he was an otaku, and the other one was his best friend. Before diving, Mac stays in the main cabin with DJ, and also the person in charge with the operation, named Jess. When they reach the trench, the submarines prepare to descend, but in that moment, in Jonas' ship appears Meijing. She got there without his permission. When Jonas sees her, he scolds her, saying that he prefers canceling the mission than risking her. But KRAKEN says that he needs to understand her, because she is growing, and when everyone was young they also did dumb things. Meijing says to Jonas that she even had brought her aquatic suit and even more things. While they discuss, the group realizes that a megalodon was swimming around close. Jiuming sees that this megalodon was Haichi. But the bad news was that she had aggressive intentions. So the only way to save themselves was crossing the marine thermocline. When they enter the thermocline, they must be very careful, because one wrong move would cause the ship to be destroyed, and for the lack of oxygen, they would compress. When they are in a closer place, they realize that Haichi wasn't the only megalodon that was there, because in this place there was another MEG, but much, much bigger and older. So Jiuming proposes to the team to follow the 2 megalodons, and find a way to have them. But Jonas tells him that this wasn't a good idea, and if they did that, they were risking Meijing's life. She doesn't care, and in the main cabin, Mac gives them permission to descend. Lance and her partner say to him that doing this, their supplies would run out, and the Megs would eat them. While they follow the megalodon, Jonas tells Meijing that her mom would love to be on a mission like this one. When they look up, they see that there was 1 Meg more. The biggest of all was a male, and they meted there to reproduce. This doesn't make Jonas happy, because now there will be even more gigantic sharks. This is the reason of why Haichi was so restless in the lake, and escaped. When they keep descending they realize that under them, there was a submarine station, so they decide to investigate who they were, and what were they doing. Besides this, Jiuming realizes that these people had their submarine suits, and they used them to collect weird minerals. The chief of the submarine base was a random guy called Montez. He was with his men, discovering these heavy minerals, but he knew that if someone discovered his illegal work, he'd go to jail. So to save him, he explodes the mine and sacrifices his men. This causes Jonas and the others to be in danger. They try to escape, but the bad thing is that Jiuming's ship damages because of the rocks. Jonas tries to save him, but the collapse affects the 2 ships. Mac asks Jess and DJ to save his friends and prepare the rescue ships. Meanwhile, in the submarine, Jonas waited for Meijing. She fastly stands up, she immediately asks for his uncle, but Jonas didn't know what happened to him, or if he was hurted or not. Back with Mac, he discovers that the rescue submarine was damaged, and realizes that there was an imposter in the group, and they must be prepared for the imposter's next act. Thanks to KRAKEN, they fix one part of the ship, they can now at least have more oxygen and communicate with Mac. Jonas talks with him, and he says that unluckily, there were no ways to save them, because the rescue submarines are damaged. Jonas tells him that before the accident, he saw a submarine base, and what they just need to do is put on the super suits and walk towards that base. The bad thing is that these suits only have oxygen for 3 hours. They prepare themselves and Mac wishes them luck. The group starts to walk through the abyss, but just then Jiuming finds them. He and his team were still alive. Meijing hugs his uncle, but there is not time for these things because they must keep walking. Lance, the otaku with her friend, were nervous. She tries to calm him down, but he was too scared. And for accident, a little squid attacks him repeatedly, biting his head. But he saves himself, and her friend says to him to be very careful. Back with Mac, he says to DJ and Jess to review everything and to be careful, because they now can't trust no one, because there is a traitor. To make time, Meijing asks questions to Jonas and the team. In that moment, with nobody realizing, a giant creature suddenly attacks Lance, and there is only a part of his supersuit left. Her friend searches him and the group prepares for the worst. Not very far from there, in the underwater base, Montez calls Hillary. It turns out that she was the traitor. He tells her what had happened, and she asks to get rid of Jonas and Co., because if they told what they did, they'll get in big trouble. Back in the depths with Jonas, the group turns on the infrared lights from the suit to save energy, and they walk slowly. Unfortunately, Lance's friend, because she was scared, begins to waste the bit oxygen that she had. But in that moment, on the radar appears unknown life forms, but a fish bank passes just beside the group, scaring them. When they get out of there, Jiuming tells them that the radar is sounding again, and the dinosaurs from the beginning of the movie appear attacking them. It appears that the dinosaurs have evolved and they now can swim. The only way to survive is getting rid of these creatures. But these ones outnumbered them and they start to eat the super suits. When Jiuming sees that Meijing is being attacked, he pulls out a Bengal and this makes that the creatures stop attacking her, but in that moment, 2 megalodons appear. Jiuming says to everyone that he'll gain a bit of time and they must escape because he'll sacrifice himself. Jonas tells him that he is dumb, because these days he is searching an honorable way to die, so he takes the Bengal and throws it far away. One of the megalodons follows the Bengal, while the other one eats one of the scientists. So they leave her and still run, reaching and entering a capsule from the base, but however, the suit from the other scientist unluckily was damaged. We see that she and her suit are compressed due to the lack of oxygen. Everyone is scared and sad. Jonas, Jiuming, Reagan and Meijing investigate the underwater base, and realize that there was no one in this place. Jonas asks Meijing to communicate with Mac. While she was on it, they realized that this submarine had minerals, and the persons who worked there wanted to take a mineral that is used for spaceships. And only 1 kilogram of this mineral costs millions and billions of dollars in the market. When they communicate with Jess, she tells them that in the other part of the base, there were 2 escape ships. While they investigated the place, Jiuming realizes that these undersea miners use their super suits, that is to say that they stole their creation. Once they are in this chamber, Jess appears through a call and tells them that it's true, that she is the traitor, and the only way to escape is for Reagan to shoot Jonas precisely in his heart. He says to Jess that she was a bad person because her ambition provoked the worst death from 3 friends. To save his friends, Jonas asks Reagan to shoot, but she didn't want to. Because of that, Jess expels the 2 rescue ships, leaving them trapped in the bottom of the sea. When she does this, she communicates with Hillary, and tells that they didn't listen to her. So Hillary communicates with the group and says to them that the death won't mean nothing, because they were just a disgrace without importance, and to finish with this, she asks Jess to finish with all of them any way possible. This was a very bad situation. She floods the submarine and the group realizes that the only way to survive is finding a submarine from that base, and so escape. Jonas accepts to do this mission, so he inhales much air. But when he leaves he sees that a megalodon was above him. So he tries to escape from this place. But suddenly, a dinosaur tries to bite him, but Jonas ends with him pretty quickly. But the sea pressure causes Jonas to faint. But he gets to push the button. When he wakes up, he sees Montez. He had rescued him to personally take care of him. Saying that in the past, he went to jail for his fault, and spent more than 5 years there, and he is now angry. The 2 start to look to each other and they begin to fight, and when Jonas defeats him after some long time, he opens the gates and rescues the team. Meanwhile, in the surface, a group of mercenaries arrive at the base. Jess informs all of them that they must get rid of everyone in the base. On the other side, Mac realizes that the one who sabotaged the ships was Jess from the beginning, and he was very impressed because he didn't suspect from her. Back with Jonas, the group was worried because there was no way to escape. But Jonas has an idea, saying that they must use one part of the ship and get to the surface the fastest possible. This way, the megalodons won't attack them and they could survive. Jiuming says to everyone that he will activate the ship's lights, and they had to wait for him, because the lights would provoke the megalodons to destroy the base. Nobody disagreed, so we now see how Jiuming activates them and that he barely arrives back to the ship. The group then escapes. While they were going to the base, they realized that when the bombs exploded, just then, a giant hole formed in the thermocline, provoking that many megalodons and other deep-sea beings escaped to the surface. So they must be careful, because in this place could appear all kind of unknown creatures. Saying this, we see that the first one to escape the place is a giant tentacle, and its owner is mostly a gigantic kraken. Yeah. But Montez puts on a super suit and he escapes with another ship. Meanwhile, Mac and DJ were hiding. They knew that if Jess found them they were dead mate. So the safest thing to do was to hide, but however Jess finds them and says that if they give up, absolutely, nothing will happen to them. Mac and DJ knew that she was obviously lying, so DJ pulls out his backpack, where he had a taser and pepper spray. They open the door, Mac sprays them but the pepper spray affects him too, so DJ takes his taser and electrocutes Jess. He and Mac escape. Meanwhile with Jonas, when the group rose to the surface he asks everyone to be careful, so Meijing will stay with KRAKEN, while he and Jiuming will try to find Mac for help. Talking of Mac, just then he and DJ find some of the mercenaries. DJ does the forbidden steps and with a lot of ease, he wins them. He was happy, but it didn't last for long, because just then a lot of more mercenaries surround them. They are taken to the main room, but then Jiuming suddenly appears and starts to talk in Japanese, and he says to all of the mercenaries that very soon his friend will come for them, and he will then knock out everyone. Obviously they don't understand and they're distracted. Jonas appears and knocks out everyone, but anyway, in the main room Montez goes to Jess. Turns out that the two were in love, and she says that this finally was their moment. They'll now be happy and rich, the only thing that they need is to get rid of the crew. Just then in that moment, Hillary calls her and asks her what was happening. While she explains, Reagan notices that 3 megalodons were near the base. Meanwhile, Jess talked with her boss, who sees a megalodon, but Jess trusted in the glass, and it will hold megalodon attacks. But when she stops talking, the male megalodon destroys the glass, and swallows Jess whole. Montez gets to escape by a miracle. Meanwhile Jonas meets with all of his companions, and they then decide to take a rescue boat. Meanwhile other mercenaries notice this happening, so they follow them, but when they realize that the megalodons are stalking them, they decide to stop, and just when they wanted to use their weapons, a megalodon rises from the sea and swallows them. Montez, seeing this he tells it to Hillary. She tells to him that he must really get rid of Jonas, and so he could be so rich that he could write his own destiny, but then, he suddenly starts to cry when he again thinks in Jess, but then Hillary, suddenly, ends the call. Minutes later, Jonas and the group get to escape from the megalodons, so he then prepares a homemade lance with a bit of things that they had. Jiuming says that they should go to the nearest island, which has the name of Fun Island. In this place everyone danced, celebrated, eated and drinked and had a lot of fun. 2 girls were tanning, but suddenly a man arrives and immediately starts to talk with them, but they seem to be pretty uncomfortable. But in that moment some dolphins start to escape because their predator, the king of the seas, has arrived. 5 kilometers from there, a random guy asked her girlfriend to marry him, but the ring unluckily falls. When he takes it, he sees that her girlfriend wasn't there, because she had been eaten by one of the sea monsters that escaped before. So he tries to find her but suddenly a giant tentacle sinks the boat, eating all the survivors. Somewhere else, Montez then sees Hillary, but he and his group are attacked by those aquatic dinosaurs. On the coast, Jonas says to all the people that was there, to get out of the water and to escape, because something will soon attack them. One or another pays attention, and while everyone swam out of the water, Jonas asks Meijing to immediately stay far from danger, but this time please listen directly, because if she doesn't obey, he won't be able to concentrate. She says that she'll stay away and to trust her, but in that moment the 3 megalodons appear, and eat 2 persons that were calmly in the water. Jonas, without other option, asks his friends to each one find a jet ski, and to use the explosive lances against the 3 megalodons. Somewhere else, Hillary realizes that the dinosaurs had taken all of her men, so she takes a weapon and gets in the helicopter, but she didn't know that one of the dinosaurs followed her, so just when she enters the helicopter, it drags her to the jungle. Meanwhile with DJ and Reagan, they see the chaos that the dinosaurs have caused, so they look for a way to call the army and save the people. The bad thing is that they didn't have phones and they were being surrounded by the dinosaurs. Meanwhile, in that moment Jonas realizes that there was just one jet ski. So he asks for the homemade spears to his friends because he will fight alone against the 3 megalodons. He really believes in himself. At the same time, Juming and Mac look for a way to help Jonas, and they soon find an explosive mineral in the cellar of a cabin, but just then more mercenaries arrive and surround them, so they now have no choice but to give up. Meanwhile, Reagan and DJ are searching for some telephone to call someone that could help. DJ finds one, but Reagan quickly starts to steal some money that she found in a purse, but one of the creatures notices their presence, so they must escape, but DJ says to be very careful, and to run just when he says to, but she is smarter and leaves him alone. A little later, the two find the cabin where Juming and Mac were. So the mercenaries think that they've won, but they manage to fool them opening the front door, and this way, the aquatic dinosaurs enter the cabin, and the mercenaries can't do nothing, so they all escape. Because now everyone is calmer, DJ calls everyone who can help them, while Mac and Juming will search for Hillary's helicopter to help Jonas, and so manage to escape. When they find it, Juming sees that there were many hungry dinosaurs near, so the plan is that he will distract the creatures while Mac turns it on. Near the helicopter appear more dinosaurs. They, with their ingenuity, survive and defeat the creatures. Back with Jonas, he wants to attack one Meg, so he takes his lance, and he throws it on its forehead, and it brutally explodes, defeating the first Meg. When he searched the second Meg, Montez annoys the plan, so the only thing that Jonas can do is escape. But on the shore of the beach, the Kraken appears, and starts to attack the people. When Meijing sees that the people needed help, she jumps in the sea and starts to save people. Mac and Juming, in the helicopter, arrive at the place, and Juming prepares a homemade bomb with the materials that he found, but when they wanted to save Meijing, the Kraken attacks them with its tentacle. It knocks down the helicopter and the female megalodon tries to attack Jonas. This Meg destroys everything, and while doing it, it begins to get entangled with the chains of the port. Jonas then hides, but meanwhile, at the same time Montez was also searching him. Jonas finds him and he directly takes the weapon from Montez and stands up. Montez starts to bleed, and like everyone should know, blood in the water attracts the most gigantic sharks, so the megalodon comes and Jonas kicks Montez, so he lands in the megalodon's mouth. Meanwhile, the Kraken kept doing his thing. When he wanted to attack Meijing, Juming saves her, and he takes his homemade bomb. He then throws it to the squid, making it explode in the depths, but this explosion doesn't hurt it, and Juming is caught in its tentacle, and he is prepared to be eaten, but just then, Hai-Chi suddenly appears, and begins to bite the Kraken, so the two have a great big fight, but the megalodon Hai-Chi ends up defeating the squid. At the same time, when Juming sees Mac that was hurt, he saves him. Then the male megalodon came, so Jonas makes sound vibrations with a piece of metal, to get his attention. But the megalodon answers him, so Jonas lifts it up, impales the beast through its mouth, and defeats it. Now with 2 Megs and a Kraken defeated, the survivors search for a safe place, but in that moment, one of the creatures was about to eat Meijing, but DJ uses his security gun and defeats it. Meanwhile in the sea, Jonas, Juming and Mac see that Hai-Chi the megalodon was alive, and she gets close to eat them. Juming uses his thingy to call her, and when the megalodon was close, she recognizes her owner and doesn't attack him. While leaving, Juming was happy because the creature finally listened to him, and even in a moment she saved him from a giant octopus. But Jonas says that the megalodon only went to eat dolphins, and the movie ends with DJ talking with girls, everyone alive. Happy, Juming realizes that his megalodon was pregnant by the older megalodon, and he and Jonas punish Meijing, and so ends Meg 2, The Trench. Well, this video has arrived to the end, and I hope you have enjoyed it. For more cool shark content, do not forget to subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and turn the bell on to not miss any shark video. So well, we'll see you in the next one.